have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. I'd like to start this reflection on today's readings with a little bit of show and tell. When I was a child, my great Aunt Jo gave me this figurine of Jesus lovingly holding a lamb in his arms. I always liked this figurine, always kept it close and had it with me anywhere that I lived, in part because it reminded me of that beloved aunt, but also because of the comfort of it. I have to admit, though, that I never really identified with this lamb. It looked so content and so peaceful and calm in Jesus' arms. And I was always a little too restless, too full of questions, and too ready for adventures to think of myself as this lamb. But then my husband Tom and I went to Newfoundland in the first year that we were married. And there we met sheep. Really for the first time. I'd seen them before in petting zoos, but not in the wild. And we saw sheep there in strange and dangerous places, right at the edges of cliffs, going for the grass that was over the edge, as if that grass had to be a lot more delicious than what was on top of the cliff. Sheep are crazy. They are ornery. They are stubborn. They are willful. Well, maybe I could actually identify with this little lamb after all. I certainly can today, on a day that is nicknamed Good Shepherd Sunday, the fourth Sunday of this season of Easter. It's a day when we hear the sheep say, "The Lord is my shepherd. The Lord gives me everything that I need. The Lord gives me rest, gives me refreshment, gives me the gifts of life, and therefore I lack nothing. There is absolutely nothing more in all the world that I need." Now, sheep don't seem to believe that there's nothing else that they need. They don't seem to believe that the shepherd will supply their needs. And so they get themselves into those predicaments in life right at the edge of the cliff. We human beings don't seem to believe that we have all that we need either. And that's why we get ourselves into predicaments of longing for something else that's just out of our reach. Well, Jesus comes to us today in the middle of our predicament with good news. He comes to us in the middle of our restless desire to go beyond the edges of our own homes where we've been sheltering in place for weeks and weeks and weeks now. Jesus comes to us in the middle of our restless desires to resume activity and to be a part of groups in person again. Jesus comes to us in the middle of our fears about our health, about our economy, about our church life. And he comes with good news. Now, the good news he brings today takes an unexpected image in the gospel. Unexpected because although we call this Good Shepherd Sunday, Jesus doesn't talk about good shepherds. Instead, he says, "I am the gate for the sheepfold." Now, gates for the sheepfold open in to welcome in the sheep into that place where they can be protected from predators and protected from their own inclinations to wander and be stubborn. Life is good inside the sheepfold, where there is food to eat and where there is safety That's why some Christian art imagines the gate as the gateway to heaven. Jesus himself hints at heaven when he says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly." Abundant life, eternal life with Christ in the fullness of God's heaven, where we are held in loving arms. But the reality is that that life doesn't begin after we die the way we sometimes think. Eternal life isn't just for some future in some far distant place. God's heaven is here, already here and now. It is, as Jesus said, within us and among us. Now, God's heaven is not here yet in all its fullness. God is not done with us yet. But God's presence, God's goodness, God's wonder are already here, just waiting for us to see them and glimpse them and share them with others. And so the gate that opens to let the sheep in also opens to let the sheep out. If sheep stayed in the fold all the time, they could not thrive. They need to get out, to run and to feel the blessings of the air and of water and of good pasture. They need to go out in order to thrive. Sometimes even the shepherd needs to take the staff and drive them out so that they can be at their best. Jesus, the gate, opens to let us into the fullness of God's heaven, and then opens to push us out, to send us out into the world, to live the fullness of God's heaven there, out in the world, in the middle of God's creation, in the middle of all of the messiness and the meaningfulness of life in community with other people. Jesus, the gate, opens for us to come in and to go out. And he opens for us now, in this time of the coronavirus, in this time of staying home and of making sacrifices for people, including for people that we will never even meet. We may not be able to travel far from our own homes. We may not be able to go far out those doors or through the gates of our yards. But we can share abundant life with others through phone calls that we make to people who are lonely or anxious, through sending old-fashioned cards and letters in the mail, by taping messages on the insides of our windows or even on the telephone poles or trees in front of our houses, messages of encouragement that our neighbors will see as they walk by. We can go out into the world and serve even now by donating food or money, or by making masks and giving them to people in need. And of course we can and must do it by praying. Praying for those who are making difficult decisions right now. Praying for those who have the coronavirus, for their families, and for all who are caring for them. Praying for those who have died, and for those who grieve them. We can go out through the gate that Jesus is and into the world even now, because love transcends all physical boundaries and all physical distancing, sacrifice knows no limits, no boundaries, no walls. Abundant life cannot be kept down. So even as if we are as ornery and feisty as sheep in wild places, we have everything we need, as God holds us tight in powerful arms of love. And those arms, that love, will never, ever let us go.